Liza Lawrence here with episode 14, Nothing is Lost in the Mind of God. Welcome to Wonders and Miracles podcast, where we celebrate miraculous moments in everyday lives. I'm your host, Liza Lawrence, a wife, mother, teacher, and miracle lover. If you're new to this podcast, here's what we do here. Each week on Miracle Monday, we celebrate awe-inspiring true stories from regular people like you and me. People who have experienced something surprising and wonderful that could be considered the work of a divine source. My desire is to help us recognize God's hand and His love in our lives, because the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen. Thanks for listening to the show. Now let's celebrate wonders and miracles together. Isaiah chapter 41 verse 10. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, I will help thee, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. So today's episode, you will hear stories where lives were preserved by heavenly forces, a desperately searched for wedding ring saga, and 3 mysterious strong men to the rescue. I truly just love hearing all these amazing stories, so keep them coming. I love it. If you want to submit a story, submit it on my website at wondersandmiracles.com. Okay, so for the month of November, we've been doing a huge giveaway. I just wanted to tell you it's been going so well. You guys are awesome. You guys are amazing for helping me spread the word about this uplifting podcast. If you haven't yet, go ahead and go to Instagram or Facebook. So my Instagram handle is Wonders and Miracles. My Facebook page is Wonders and Miracles Podcast. Go to either place, wherever you prefer, and you should see the post and follow the directions to get a free Meditations on the Mount album. These are Bible-based guided meditations. These meditations truly are so beautiful. They're so grounding. They help you feel God's love. They really do invite the Spirit of the Lord to enter into your meditation so you can live the truth of abide in me and I will abide in you. They really are amazing. We've had so much positive feedback for both of those albums. So make sure you take advantage of this free giveaway and get your free Meditations on the Mount album today. All right, well, let's get started with our guests today. This is kind of fun. My first guest, Andrea, it is her birthday today. So I want to give a shout out to Andrea. Today's November 19th. So Andrea, happy birthday. I hope you have a fun celebration today. Okay, so I'm here with Andrea from Idaho, and Andrea was actually one of my students years ago, and we've stayed in touch over the years, and she thought of a couple miracle stories that she'd like to share, which I'm excited to hear. The first one took place 11 years ago. So Andrea, thanks for being on the show and willing to share your stories, and tell us your first one.
Okay. I was 16 years old. I was still very new to driving and very nervous and uncomfortable with driving in general, to be honest, especially driving at night. And I was probably about 10 minutes away from my house, and I was driving down a main road, and it was dark at night. And I grew up in Oro Valley, Arizona, where there's a certain level of light pollution that is allowed, and it's very minimal. So the streets are very, very dark. So I'm driving down the road, and at this time in my life, I made it a point to have no distractions while I was driving and pray as I drove. And I am looking ahead, and I see the next intersection that I need to cross through. The lights are blinking yellow. So I'm like, okay, Heavenly Father, I'm pretty sure I remember I remember what I studied, and if it's blinking red, I treat it like a stop sign, four-way stop. If it's blinking yellow, I just proceed with caution. So I'm like, is that right? And I didn't really feel like God was like warning me, like, no, danger ahead. I just felt peaceful, like there was nothing to worry about. So I was still a little freaked out. I was like, this is really risky. Like, I'm nervous to approach this kind of different situation without knowing for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of slowed down, but I am looking at the intersection. I see no cars. There's nothing there, no accident, no reason why I should stop for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep driving, and I'm about to cross into the intersection. I'm about where the crosswalk white lines are. And all of a sudden, I see a car right in front of me. They're making a left turn. My heart just stops, and I put my foot on the brake, and I think, Andrea, brace for impact. I'm going to hit them. I'm going way too fast. I'm way too close to them. I'm about to be in an accident. So I kind of just like tense up, and the next thing I know, I hear screaming, and I look to my left, and I see this man, and he's wearing a yellow vest, and he's screaming curse words at me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And my car had come to a complete stop without me even realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of look down, I'm like, what the heck? How did I just stop? And I look ahead of me out my front windshield, and I see the car finishing their turn.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, what? How did that happen? Just a split second ago, I was speeding forward about to crash into this car, and now I'm stopped here, and they just finished their turn and nothing happened. And I was so shocked and confused, and I looked to the man to my left, and I realized, oh, he must have been directing traffic, and I did not see him. And so I yelled through my window, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I didn't see anything. And he just waves me on, and he's obviously really frustrated and mad at me. So I keep driving, and as I'm leaving the intersection, I have this very distinct impression that came from the Lord, that he said an angel was there to protect you and the person in the other car and that man who was directing traffic. And it didn't scare me at all. Like, it didn't surprise me, because I grew up with my family talking a lot about angels. My mom has frequently seen angels. So it's always been a part of my life. And so I wasn't like scared or surprised. I was just amazed, because I thought for sure that I was going to be in an accident and it would have been really bad. But I was spared.
I think that's fun that you grew up with knowing the angels were around to help and protect, and then had your own angel experience. That's awesome.
Yeah, that was the first time that I had ever consciously been aware of an angel protecting me. So it was really neat.
That is neat. I love that.
Looking back and thinking, okay, I was praying and asking Heavenly Father, should I proceed with caution or should I stop? And I didn't feel any kind of warning. I just felt peaceful. And so in my mind, I wonder, what did he want me to experience that? Did he want me to know for a fact that, yes, angels are protecting me? And when I make stupid decisions, or when I am just weak and a human and I make mistakes, I will be protected when it's his will. Because I think sometimes we need to go through experiences when we maybe have an accident, and we have to learn that he'll help us through that. And other times we need to learn that it's really not his will for us to be in that accident or to hurt other people. And so there's interventions that will be provided in those times.
I love that. And I love that it was a direct experience of perhaps the Lord teaching you, like, I'm here protecting you, and here's an example I'll show you.
Yes.
I think that's cool. Okay, well, tell us your second story. Now, this happened years later after you were married. So let's hear this one.
Okay, so I'm married, and I was pregnant with my first and only child, and I was in my first trimester. And growing up, I always saw my friends and my sisters take off their wedding rings when they were pregnant, because they wouldn't be able to get it off as their fingers swell. So I was telling Jerem, I'm just going to do it now, because I don't want to get to a point where it gets stuck. So I have a wedding band and an engagement ring. And I left my wedding band on because it's bigger and I wasn't worried about it getting stuck. But my engagement ring, it's a very small ring, very simple, just very lightweight, simple band. And I took it off and I stuck it in our top drawer in our bathroom. And life goes on. And during my second trimester, we decided to move into a bigger apartment for the new baby coming. And so we start packing up our things. And the first thing I do before I start packing up the bedroom or bathroom is I go to the top drawer to get my ring out because I don't want to lose it. I want to put it in a safe place. I open the drawer and it's not there. I think, what the heck? I haven't touched it. Maybe my husband did. So I asked my husband, have you seen my ring? It was in the top drawer. Now I can't find it. And he said, no, I haven't touched it. I haven't seen it. And so I panic and I start searching everywhere for it, in the bathroom, bedroom, in the carpet, in the corners, just everywhere. And I can't find it. So I think, okay, maybe once we clear everything out of the house, it'll show up somewhere. So we pack everything up. We are getting ready to clean the house for the final cleaning. And I, again, search through every single nook and cranny in the house, and I can't find it anywhere again. So then I think, okay, when we get to the new house and I unpack everything and get settled, I'll find it for sure. So we move into our new apartment, and I'm consciously aware that as I'm unpacking things, to keep my eye open for my ring. And, oh, I forgot to mention that from the very first day when I didn't find it in the top drawer, I immediately started praying and asking Heavenly Father to help me find it. Because I've had so many experiences in my life where I've lost keys or jewelry or whatever it is, and He's helped me find it. So I thought for sure He would help me with this because it's my engagement ring and it's so important to me. But I just could not find it anywhere. And so I was getting a little discouraged, a little frustrated, because as I'm unpacking boxes, I still can't find it anywhere. And I think, oh no, I have lost it forever. And it really broke my heart. And then I kind of forget about it because I went into my third trimester and I gave birth, and our lives just got totally caught up in the newborn phase of life. And then a few months go on and Jerem brings it up. And he's like, wait a second, your fingers have shrunk down back to their normal size and you're still not wearing your engagement ring. And I was like, oh, Jerem, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to tell you, but I can't find it anywhere. I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh, we're going to find it. So then we both start praying that we'll find the ring somewhere and look for it. We start looking everywhere and we can't find it. So then I think maybe my approach is wrong. Maybe I need to approach God differently. So then I start visualizing that I will see my ring when I wake up in the morning on my dresser, and that's where I keep all my jewelry. So I have that visualization in my mind, and I say something like, Heavenly Father, when I wake up, will you please put my ring on my dresser? I'll look for it every day, and I fully expect it to be there, and I trust that you can do this for me. So that's how I prayed, and this went on for about 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I would pray every day and look on top of my dresser, and it was not there. And so then I start questioning myself, like, oh my gosh, like I must really lack faith, or I must not be worthy of this blessing, or maybe God is punishing me for some reason, or I don't know. I just go through all these self-doubts and feeling like, oh, does God really hear me? Why is He doing this to me? Type thinking. Mm-hmm. And then after I go through that phase, I start having these recurring dreams where I find my ring, and it's between the couch and the wall, and it's in the carpet, and it's kind of buried in the carpet, and that's why I haven't been able to find it. Every night I'd have that dream, and I would wake up in the morning and be so excited because I had that dream, and I think, oh, God is answering my prayer through a dream, and he's showed me where it is. So I'd go to that spot, and it wasn't there. So I thought, what the heck? What do these dreams mean? And I still don't know what those dreams meant. I think they were probably just my own
psyche trying to figure it out.
Right, exactly. So then after that, I kind of forget about it. I kind of give up on it, honestly, and I think, okay, we lost it forever, and we're just going to have to buy a replacement someday. And then I start feeling drawn to this book. It's called A Lightworker's Way by Doreen Virtue. And I feel like the book is just calling to me. And it had been on my bookshelf and I hadn't read it yet. And so I was like, maybe I should read this book. So I pick it up and I start reading it, and it's just beautiful and amazing. And I read the story of her losing something, and her mom taught her that nothing is lost in the mind of God. And she told her to repeat that phrase over and over and over again, and she would find whatever was lost. And sure enough, she repeated that phrase over and over, that mantra, and she found what she was looking for. And when I read that story, I thought, oh my goodness, if she can do it, I can do it. I just need to change my prayers. This is the answer. So I go to sleep that night repeating that phrase over and over in my head. Nothing is lost in the mind of God. And as I repeat it to myself, I'm filled with so much hope and just peace. And for the first time since day one of losing my ring, I kind of just let go of it, not in a sense of discouragement, but a letting go in trust. Trusting that it's in God's hands and He will provide, because nothing is lost to Him. So I go to sleep just feeling really peaceful. The next morning I wake up and I'm doing my morning routine, cleaning and tidying up around the house, and we have these big leather couches, and I was adjusting the cushions like I do every day, and I was adjusting one and something shiny caught my eye. And I think, oh, maybe James, our son, put a penny or something down in our couch and I missed it yesterday. And so I reached down and sure enough, right there is my ring. And I pull it out and I just shout. I'm pretty sure I'm like, Dad, I found my ring. So I run into the bedroom and I show him and he said, no way, where did you find it? And I said, under the couch cushion. And he said, no, we looked in that couch like constantly. We're always looking under there. And we have not seen it this whole time. It's been like a year since I lost my ring and we never found it. And I said, it's a miracle. When I finally exercised real faith and trust in Him, He provided. So now I have my engagement ring and my wedding band on my finger, and it's a reminder of me that nothing is lost in the mind of God.
I love that. And truly, nothing is. God knows where everything is. And I think He can open our minds to seeing things anew. So we're paying attention. And, I think those self-doubts, they kind of cloud our vision and we don't see it and we're distracted. And I want to add to that because I have a quick story with this very same book, the very same story. My niece, they were visiting and they were four-wheeling, and she came back to the house and she said, we need everybody at the Four-Wheeling Hills because I've lost the lens to my glasses. She was like 12 years old. And so these were little tiny glasses with very little lenses, and one of the pieces fell out and it was clear plastic. So
yeah,
we all went over to the four-wheeling track and the hill where they were. And the whole way over, I was praying and saying that mantra of, okay, Heavenly Father, nothing is lost in the mind of God. I know You know where it is. Guide us to find it. And so we all went, and all these family members were searching and searching. And I just stopped and I was really still. And I just sort of paused and kept repeating that. And I slowly walked around, just slowly, kind of with my hands out looking like, okay, I'm sure it's here somewhere. But honestly, we were looking for a clear piece of plastic in the dirt and in the leaves, like such an impossibility to find. And I went down one of the hills and got to the bottom and I thought, well, it wasn't on that hill. And then I was just kind of casually almost surrendering, same idea, like, I didn't find it. And I looked down and I didn't see anything, but I had this impulse to bend down and touch the ground. And I bent down and touched the ground and it was right there. Like I touched it and I picked it up and I was like, oh, I found it. But it didn't even catch my eye. I would never have seen it. I literally just felt an impulse to bend over and touch something.
Wow.
I love those stories. Thank you, Andrea, for sharing. I am here with Lacey from Colorado, and she's going to share a story that happened 14 years ago driving in a snowstorm. So, Lacey, thank you so much for being on the show, and let's hear your story.
Okay. Well, at the time, my husband and I were newlyweds. We got married in August, and it was April. And we were going home. My sister had borrowed a car from my parents, and so we were going to go return the car to them and surprise them for a visit. Before we left, we got in our car and said a prayer. That's something we have always done, and since this trip, we never forget it because it was very important, an important part of this trip. And I remember that night looking up and seeing the stars and what a beautifully clear night it was. And my parents lived about 5 hours south of where we were at. And so we were going to get on I-25. We were in Greeley at the time, and we were going to head to the San Luis Valley. And we were driving along, and it started to rain. And I'm not a big fan of driving in the rain. It was hard to see. And soon it turned to snow. This was April, so it's not uncommon in Colorado. We get a lot of snow, and quickly started building up on the roads. And we were just south of Denver. It goes from Denver to Castle Rock, and I-25 is a very busy road. I remember looking in the rearview mirror, and I saw car lights all around me. And the next thing I know, I slid into all 3 lanes. And miraculously, I did not hit anyone, which I don't know how that happened. I don't feel like I was steering the car. I feel like somebody took over for me because somehow I avoided hitting anyone. And my husband was in the car behind me, and he saw this, and he's like, I have no clue how you didn't hit anyone. So eventually I got the car under control, and I pulled off the road, and he followed me, and we knew we couldn't go any further. We climbed into his car, and so we said a little prayer, and we asked what we needed to do. And we decided to continue forward because we couldn't just sit on the side of I-25. There were way too many cars, and it was snowing too hard. We didn't want to be stuck there all night. And Castle Rock was maybe 3 miles ahead. So we decided to take the first exit in Castle Rock, and we found this hotel room. This is our second little miracle of this story. Somehow we got stuck in the parking lot. The tires on the car my husband was driving were really bald and not ready for that weather at all, which was our fault. So he got stuck. I pulled into a parking spot just fine, and he just kept sliding. The more he pushed the gas, the closer he got to the parked cars. And so he went in to the hotel. I went and sat in the car, and he went into the hotel, and he said, look, we are stuck in the parking lot. And the guy was really not helpful at all. And so he just was not. He's like, I don't understand why you're stuck. And it's like, because it's icy and our car will not move. Finally, my husband gave up, and he's like, we're not going to get any help here. So he came back out, and he's like, why don't you try driving the car and I'll push? But the same thing was happening. We were just sliding closer and closer, and we knew if we tried any longer, we were going to hit those cars. And so my husband turned around, and these 3 guys, they were big, muscular guys. I have no clue where they came from because there was a big ditch on the side of us and the hotel parking. And so we didn't know where they came from. But they showed up just at the right time. My husband got in the car because I was a little nervous to drive it with the way it was acting. The guys started to push it with me, and my husband was able to get it into a parking spot. And we turned around to thank them, and the guys were gone just as fast as they appeared. We have no clue where they disappeared to, but they showed up just at the right time, and it was a miracle. And so that's our silly little miracle story, but I've been thinking about it a lot lately because we just got a snowstorm. And so it's been kind of fun to think about that and to think how Heavenly Father knows what we need, and He watches out for us.
Yeah, and that they just showed up and left. That's interesting that they didn't stick around to even make sure you were okay. Like they just disappeared.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Amazing. Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Did you see any footprints? That's the real question.
I did not notice them. We did look, but there was so many tire tracks, we couldn't see them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I love stories like that. I really do. I love that we just are so watched over. And what were your thoughts as you kind of reflected on this story?
Well, I think it's very important. Like I said, now we say a prayer before we go anywhere, because when we left, it was clear skies and we thought we were good. We had checked the weather, and yes, it was supposed to be a little bit bad, but we didn't expect that. And right after we stopped at the hotel, they ended up closing the road completely. It was so bad. And so I don't think even the Weather Channel knew it was going to be that bad. And so for me, I know that Heavenly Father answers my prayers. and that I need to pray and ask for that protection because obviously we got it.
Yeah.
With all those cars around me, I have no clue how we didn't hit someone or even go off the road and I think it was help. I don't think it was me. I was blessed with that miracle. And I know that Heavenly Father provides miracles. And I think the more we notice things as miracles, the more we see them. I think you say that on your podcast. So I definitely feel that He knows us and He knows what we need. And whether it was somebody looking out for me, just some random strangers who walked up, or I feel like some divine power guided my car. I think that was a huge blessing in my life.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing those stories, because the more we hear, and I do say, the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen. And I truly believe that because we just are paying attention and we're aware. And I think there's power in that, in noticing.
Yes.
Anything else you wanted to share?
I have lots of miracles, but
I know. Once you start thinking them, you're like, oh, that was a miracle and that was a miracle.
Yeah. I know you've shared a lot of childbirth stories, but mine are truly miracles. I have very high-risk pregnancies. With my oldest daughter, I ended up getting a very severe case of preeclampsia the last week of my pregnancy, and so they went to induce me right away. And even after she was born, my blood pressure didn't go back down. And so I ended up being in the hospital for a week with her, and then they sent me home on blood pressure medication. The doctor that did the surgery told me that he said he's never seen anything like that because just how fast it came on. Usually you have some warning signs before.
Right.
And I had been to the doctor the week before and there was nothing. And so just a few days later, it was very dangerous. And then my son, I started showing signs of miscarriages with my son. So I went to the doctor and they said, well, there is a heartbeat and it's strong, but I had complications the whole way through. And at 29 weeks, I went to the doctor because I was having signs of all kinds of nastiness. They told me they were not going to release me until I had the baby, but the hospital I was at, they couldn't deliver babies before 36 weeks. And I ended up taking a ambulance ride because they were afraid I was going to die to Denver area to a hospital that could take babies that young. And when I got there, they're like, well, we may release you, we may not. And so I was 29 weeks. I was a long way from having the baby. And they kept saying, I can't do it. So one doctor finally came in and said, okay, we'll release you. I got my hopes up and I was like, they're going to release me. And the next day he came in and he said, nope, we can't do it. So I ended up being in the hospital for 3.5 weeks. My husband lived and worked in Leadville, Colorado. And my oldest daughter, who was 2.5, ended up going to live with her grandparents in Loveland. So we were spread out all over the state of Colorado. And I saw many miracles in that situation. And then one day my water broke. I was 32 weeks. They said, well, we won't force you into labor any faster than you're already going. So I called my husband. He was a drama director at the high school there. And it was production week. And so I called him. He had just done a matinee. He was going to stay at the school. And I knew the matinee had just ended. And I called him and I said, I think you need to come. This baby's coming. He luckily had an assistant director that was willing to take over for him. He started driving, which it was snowing when he left. And he was coming over I-70, which is a mountainy road. So it's not a good drive in the winter. And it took him, normally it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on traffic. This time he was over 6 hours.
Wow.
And I-70 ended up being closed. So he ended up pulling off into Central City, which is a gambling town. There were no hotel rooms available because of the snowstorm. And so he ended up sleeping in the car with a blanket. I told him he should just go in and order a drink, just get a soda and sleep in a chair in the casino because he would have been more comfortable. But he slept in the car and he left at 4 a.m. And luckily my contractions weren't bad yet. I was still doing okay. And he got to the hospital. I don't know. It was early in the morning. I don't remember a time. And then my son was born at 6 o'clock that night. So he was actually there for a good chunk of it, and he was there for it, which was a miracle because I couldn't have made it through without that. But it was just a crazy little experience. And then my son was super early. I mean, 7.5 weeks early. And so he ended up being in the hospital for a month before they would let me bring him home. He was 3 pounds, 10 ounces,
Wow.
which is crazy small.
Yeah.
A normal baby, a normal sized baby seems so fragile, but a 3-pound baby, I'm like, oh.
Oh, yeah.
And then, he had no health issues. We saw these babies that were born even later than him that were having surgeries. There was a time I came to the NICU and they wouldn't let me in because a baby near his pod was having surgery and it would contaminate it.
Oh, wow.
So I had to wait until they were done with the surgery. And we were lucky that we didn't have to deal with that. Like, his biggest health issue was he couldn't keep his body temperature up. Just seeing how I think the doctors were a miracle, just knowing how to handle my situation and then knowing when to let me go or when not to. He's like, you can go home. No, you're going to stay. And it wasn't much longer that my water broke. So it was a good thing I stayed. I think that was a miracle. And just the miracle of medicine. They were able to handle everything that came up, which was a miracle. And then my husband made it in time. Just, I feel like there were angels looking out for us in the whole situation. So.
I love those. And it sounds like obviously time after time, your life has been preserved.
It has.
It's awesome.
Oh, I have for sure.
I love that. Well, thank you, Lacey, so much for sharing those. I do appreciate that.
No problem.
All right. Well, that's the show. I love those stories of God's protection. I wonder who those 3 strong men were and that nothing is lost in the mind of God. Those are so fun. As a reminder, a couple things. If you would like to share your miracle story on the podcast, go to my website at wondersandmiracles.com. Or if you know someone else who has had a miracle story, refer them and I'll contact them. Also, you can support the podcast and spread the word by giving this podcast a rating and review. Go to iTunes and search in Wonders and Miracles, and you should be able to see where to rate and review this podcast. I've also put instructions on my Instagram page of how to do that under my highlights, so check those out. And as shout out to the fan of the week for writing a review, this is a 5-star rating on iTunes from Katie Green. She says, "Such an incredible podcast. I look forward to hearing the miracle stories every Monday as I'm getting ready for the day and week. Thank you, Liza, for letting people share with others such wonderful stories." Also, make sure you share with your friends and family. I so appreciate you helping me spread the word. And as a big thank you, for Thanksgiving this whole month, I am giving you a free meditation album. So if you want a free meditation album, go see how to share that. You'll find the information on my Instagram highlights or on my Facebook post. So check that out. Email me if you have any questions. My email is wondersandmiraclespodcast@gmail.com. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Travel safe. I hope you enjoy your families this weekend. Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10. "Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee, I will help thee, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness." I hope you consider sharing your miracle stories. I can't wait to hear how God has shown up in your life. And I hope you can think of a time when you saw your life preserved by the hand of God and helped by the hand of God. And as always, remember to notice and celebrate the miracles everywhere, because the more miracles we notice, the more miracles happen.